Hi all, welcome back to Make More Bonsai. John here. If there's one thing to do to ensure you're able to grow, train, and maintain the health of a bonsai tree, that thing would be to learn how to water your tree. I mean, on the surface it seems pretty simple. The soil looks dry, add some water, and great, not dry anymore. Mission accomplished, party on. If you really want to understand the value of water for a tree and the most basic science of maintaining the overall health of your tree or any plant, let's take a look at what is going on above and below the soil line. When talking about bonsai soil, the term you hear most often is drainage. What is drainage? Why is it so important? Short answer: when you water a tree, the evaporated water is what is absorbed by the roots. For that to happen, the soil needs to drain well. Okay, end of video. See you next time. If you're still sticking around, then I imagine you're ready for a more detailed version. Let's talk about transpiration. The leaves on a tree have numerous tiny little holes called stomata. The stomata open and close, regulating gas exchange and expel heat. Under normal conditions, they are open. If the tree experiences a shortage of water, they will close, or more like deflate, which is why the leaves curl down when a plant is dry. Ideally, they should be open and exchanging all day, helping the process of photosynthesis. The stomata take in carbon dioxide for the plant to use for photosynthesis. And the waste product of photosynthesis is oxygen and water, which is released afterward through the stomata. This release of oxygen is the end of the transpiration cycle within the tree. These tiny holes create negative pressure inside the system of xylem that transports water up through the tree. Xylem is the inside structure of cells cambium creates, the outside being phloem. Xylem is very stiff and creates a structural support system for a tree. It is also hollow, so water can travel upwards through it. The negative pressure affects the water inside the xylem. Much like when you stick a straw into a glass of water, the water rises up a little. Well, imagine that on a microscopic scale and like thousands of straws. This negative pressure that transpiration creates, combined with water, also known as H2O, which is 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, water has the properties of cohesion, the property of water to stick to itself. This is due to the slightly positively charged hydrogen atoms and the slightly negatively charged oxygen atom. These charges attract water molecules together, which is why they form drops of water. And adhesion, which is the property of water to stick to surfaces, like the straw. When you insert it in water, that water comes up a little bit, again, due to the positive and negative charges of the atoms. Another important property of water is it attracts and retains heat, which is nice since chemical reactions also have a byproduct of heat. Water helps cool things within the tree. Let's not science the living daylights out of this and keep this video from becoming a total yawn fest and move on, understanding that adhesion and cohesion as well as heat retention are significant properties of the goodness you pour into the soil. This combination of the adhesion and cohesion properties of water molecules and the negative pressure provided by transpiration creates a path of least resistance to transport the molecules of water up through the tree. That is the above ground part of the story. Now let's head below to the roots. Let's talk about root pressure and osmosis. Roots don't actively suck water up, like one would with a straw. I keep talking about straws. The roots spread out through the pot around the soil particles. The ends of these roots have a small network of root hairs. These fine root hairs provide a wide surface area for maximum exposure to absorb water through their thin cell walls. These root hair cells contain a high concentration of water. Remember when I mentioned evaporated water? In order for the water to enter the roots through these root hairs, the concentration of water in the soil needs to be lower than the concentration of water inside the root. Osmosis is when the molecules are drawn to the area of higher concentration and pass through the cell membrane of the root hair. The water needs to evaporate between those soil particles to become small enough to be influenced by cohesion, that very same property of water that creates droplets, and adhesion, which allows the evaporated water to stick to the root hairs and their broad surface area. Well, broad when compared to a molecule. Okay, so now that there's evaporated water sticking to the root hairs, the rest of the evaporated water travels out of the soil until the amount of water in the soil is less concentrated than the amount of water inside the root hair. Now, cohesion takes over, and the water molecules will pass through the thin cell membrane into the root, as well as minerals such as nitrogen in the form of nitrates, magnesium, potassium, and phosphorus. These attach themselves to the aforementioned atoms and their positive and negative charge. These minerals are then broken down into useful proteins. The water molecules travel through the cells and even around the cells, drawn by the positive and negative ions that cause cohesion until they pass into the xylem. Once inside the xylem column, the combination of adhesion and cohesion is further influenced by the addition of the negative pressure created by transpiration through the stomata. This gives direction to the water molecules as they journey up through the tree in a constant flow of resources to provide minerals and fuel for photosynthesis. This is at least the current working theory of how trees do that thing they do. How do we as bonsai growers help the tree make the best use of the space in a small pot for so much to go on? We use soil that will allow water to pass through quickly, but also retain enough water to allow for the most water possible to evaporate over the longest amount of time. That soil would consist of very porous particles that will absorb water and also hold onto it, but allow for the most oxygen to pass through as well to facilitate evaporation. Soil used for bonsai mostly consists of materials such as akadama, which is a porous clay substance that, when viewed through a microscope, has many tiny holes for water to rest inside and await evaporation. Lava, in a granular form, is very durable and also very porous. Pumice is also a good soil amendment. It's mined from volcanic sites where magma has cooled rapidly, creating tiny bubbles inside. You can also add organic materials such as bark particles, sphagnum moss, and even simple potting soil, which will break down into nutrients and hold moisture in quantities that may help the tree get through the day. No more than maybe 1/3 should be organic material, because the priority is the availability of oxygen and water. Too much organic matter will slow down evaporation. A good bonsai soil is a combination of akadama, lava, pumice, and some organic amendment. You will need to experiment a little to see which suits each tree and how available you are to water them. Okay, now that we have all that out of the way, it's time to water a tree. Before you water any bonsai, you need to review the condition of the tree itself. Does it need water? Is the soil wet? Then wait until it's in a more dry state before adding more water. Is it in good health? What size pot versus how much foliage is on the tree? Was it transplanted recently, or has it been in the pot for a year or more? Is it actually using water rapidly and drying out quickly? Is there new active growth demanding more water, or are you maintaining and supporting past growth? Did you just water this yesterday, or even a few hours ago? Is it a cool spring day, or a 90-degree Fahrenheit summer day, or is it a freezing winter day? Is it raining? What I'm really saying is, get to know your trees and their needs. If you know their baseline health requirement, you can decide if and when you can apply water in order to keep the tree healthy and growing. This is way easier than it sounds, especially if you check on your trees every day. If everything checks out and you're sure it's time to water your tree, first, I recommend dampening the surrounding area. This raises the overall humidity around the tree, and on a hot, sunny summer day, it also helps cool the pot. This humidity will linger and help humidify the area around the tree for some time. Second, without disturbing the soil, gently water the top of the soil. This activates the particles and prepares them to start absorbing water. Watch how fast that water drains. It should not linger above the soil longer than 30 seconds to less than a minute. This one drains right away. Then back off. Maybe water another tree for a few seconds. Third, apply more water and let that drain also. This pass will penetrate deeper into the center of the pot. Last, one more penetrating pass. This tree is just starting to push out new growth, so a light foliage pass with some water will help cool the foliage. We all know what happens next, but I'll say it anyway. The water is clinging to the soil particles, being absorbed deep into the porous surfaces of the medium. The excess is draining out, allowing oxygen into the soil to begin evaporating until the balance is just right for the water vapor to adhere to the possibly thousands of root hairs, and passing through the cell walls into the xylem, where it will travel up through the tree to facilitate photosynthesis, and then the waste is pushed out through the stomata, releasing oxygen, excess water, and the heat it picked up inside the tree. Each water molecule attracts and pulls the next one out due to cohesion from the charge of the atoms. Wow, transpiration is one long run-on sentence, but once you wrap your head around it, you become more sensitive to the needs of the tree and how essential water is for the production of all the living tissue within the tree. Here is the chemical formula for photosynthesis. The energy from sunlight is captured by chlorophyll and then converted by chloroplasts in the cells in combination with carbon dioxide and water to create glucose and oxygen. Look at all those H's and O's. This chemical equation is to help illustrate how large a part water plays in the creation of food for the tree. This daily interaction with your trees will help refine your sense of when and how much water they demand throughout the year. It's an opportunity to review their development as well as simply enjoy the practice of bonsai overall. One big factor of bonsai is the refinement of your watering skills. I will suggest, if you're unsure of the condition of the soil below the surface, a moisture meter is a helpful tool to get familiar with the water usage of each tree. Over time, you will become more familiar with how often each tree uses water, and you'll need to use the moisture meter less frequently, which is good since stabbing this thing into your soil is not the best practice for sure. Thanks for watching. I hope you gained something helpful from this little video. If you did, maybe splash a little water on the like and subscribe buttons, or maybe better tap or click. Yeah, that's probably a better move. Let me know what you think in the comments. Possibly check out our book or the t-shirt links in the comments below because bonsai stuff is kind of cool and you are cool for helping support this channel. I gotta go water now, so see you next time.